my co-host, Dr. Bati Bey. Go ahead and
Yes,
introduce yourself, Mighty Moore.
This is
Started.
Bati Bey. Yes, sir.
All right. This is the Eagle Check Podcast. We like if you like and subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. And today we're going to be covering the news for June, starting with some topics from the brother Bati Bey that he needs to cover. So go right ahead, brother. Let him know what you're dealing with today.
Islam. First, we always rise to give our man praise to Allah and honor to the Prophet. One of the things that has been weighing on my mind, and a lot of people wonder what. A lot of people think that, our plight was self-generated, meaning that a lot of the things that we're going through as a Moorish community, whether we know it or not, is self-generated, and not understanding that it's orchestrated from not just pale skin supremacy, but also from the aspects of Freemasonry, our conditions. And one of the things that reflects or is kind of like a synopsis, or gives you a brief explanation of how and why, is the Willie Lynch letter. And I think that reading this Willie Lynch letter and being aware of what's in it is useful to those who are willing, are striving for change. And I'm not going to go over the whole Willie Lynch letter. It's 4 pages. But there are some things that I feel like needs to be touched on. And one of the main things that we're going to touch on is the aspect of how they conditioned us. We got to look at it, how they broke the African woman. Some of the topics, it says the cardinal principles for making a Negro. Let's make a slave. And a lot of people think this is just a theory. They think this is just some coincidence. And one thing we understand in more science is that there's no coincidence. So I'm going to begin with the Willie Lynch letter, and let me start there. It says, "Greetings, gentlemen. I greet you here on the banks of the James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reaches me on." Hold on, let me share this so that you can read along as we're doing it.
Okay. All right with you. Of course, many of you already know what this is, and you can read along and follow concerning the Willie Lynch letters and conditioning of the African mind and the transition from gods to NBCs, Negroes, black, and colors.
Mm-hmm. Is it showing? Oh, there you go. There it goes. And so I will continue. It says, I bring from Virginia. Where was I at? Oh, from the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve some of your problems with slaves. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods of control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. As our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used control cords of wood as crosses for standing human bodies along its highway in great numbers. You are here using the tree and the rope on occasion. I caught the whiff of dead slaves hanging from a tree a couple miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by hangings, you are having uprisings. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the fields too long for maximum profits. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I don't need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to methods of solving them. In my bag here, I have a full proof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseers can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple list of little, take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is an intelligent size, sex, sizes of plantation status on plantations, attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley or on the hills, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have the list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect or admiration. The black slaves are receiving this indoctrination shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark slaves versus the light skinned slaves, and the light skinned slaves versus the dark skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must also have white servants and overseers who distrust all blacks. But it's necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen. Now that right there alone to let you know the dynamic that we face today. The old versus young, the dark versus light. There's dark skin game, the dark and light skin game going on. Been doing this for years, even subconsciously, not even paying attention to us doing it in school with, even my group of peers. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's some, we say that's some light skin, stuff right there. That's some, this how the dark, but stuff like that going against each other. And it's crazy that that is even the male versus the female. This is not this is not, that's why I say it moved from the avenue of theory into being an actual process in which they actually use. Because if you look at the government used this process in order to get us out the household. You know what I'm saying? So in that respect, we have to take this Willie Lynch letter and heed it, because this was the dynamic of the destruction of our civilization. You know what I'm saying? And the only way to repair the civilization is to I don't want to say reinvent, but re-engineer a solution from this standpoint. And once we re-engineer a solution from the standpoint, like he said, it only take a year. It only took a year to create the situation, so it only took a year to get over the situation. We even got the feuds happening between the belief systems. You know what I'm saying? Some people call it religious game banging, but we always been tribal.
Yeah.
But in the aspects of even the NOI versus the Moors, or the Moor Science Temple versus the Moorish American government, or the Moor Science Temple versus the Moor Science Temples. You know what I'm saying? This is a methodology that, though was created in a theory, most people say it's not true, but we can see the evidence in the destruction of our civilization, and why we need to really examine this and then use our own counterintelligence in order to overcome this construct, because this is really how it is. And if you think about where it says it's necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love and respect and trust only us. So if you look at the dynamics of Christianity, where they got a European Jesus hanging up on their wall, even though they are dark skinned, you are predispositioned to believe that Europeans are trustworthy, and that your own kind is untrustworthy, and that you're not supposed to trust it. This is a play. Same thing with the government. You kick the males out the homes, but you got the government, the WIC, the food stamp SNAP office, whatever you want to call it. They are typically Europeans, and they're orchestrating, or they're on the bequest of Europeans, and they're orchestrating this methodology to bring them trust. They killed the Black Panther Party that created the WIC program and the food program, and the after schools programs for that. But saying that should show you that this is a chess game for them, and this is the methodology. Now, even it says, "Let's make a slave." Okay. It says, "Let's make slave." It says the cardinal principle for making a Negro, because obviously, who were we before we were considered Negro, black, and colored? He said the cardinal principle for making a Negro. That means we had to be something else. We had to be something greater, and we had to degrade into a lesser state of what we were. And they knew that. So the Negro is the trademark name for the product produced by the slave plantations. And this is it right here. So this is the methodology. It says, for fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both of the beasts together, the nigger and the horse. We understand that short-range planning economics results in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth in long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skills, sharp perception. We laid down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Both horse and niggers are no good to the economic in the wild or natural state. Ain't that crazy? Or natural state. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. For orderly future, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. Now, that's where the word, I'm just going to speak frank, that's where the word motherfucker came from. From this process right here. That's where that word came from. Because they would put a bag over the head of both of them and then force them to breed. And you're not knowing. So that's where that terminology came from. Yeah. It says both must be crossbred to produce a variety of divisions of labor. Both must be taught to respond to a peculiar new language, psychological and physical instruction of containment, must be created for both. We hold the six cardinal principles as true to be self-evident based upon following the discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying the horse and the niggers together. What's it doing?
Wow.
All inclusive of the six principles laid down above. Note, neither principle alone will suffice for good economics. All principles must be employed for orderly good of the nation. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or natural nigger is dangerous even if captured, for they will have the tendency to seek their customary freedom. That's crazy. Customary freedom, and
doing so might kill you in your sleep. So yeah, they fear mongering and everything else. You see how they say in doing so they might kill you in your sleep? Come on.
Yes.
And they're the killers. They're the killers. They're the murderers. They're the deceivers and the evil plotters against humanity.
And I want to make a note to show that though the concept was the breaking of a people, it was also the breaking of the mind frame of them too as well. Because you have to be a sadistically sick individual. You have to be a unadulterated savage to push this process. You have to be. There's no way you could have a conscious, a level, any type of level of conscious. And this is what society or the West perpetuates in a society, and they don't even know where it comes from. So this is where it comes from. Let's go on. And it says, kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake and are awake while you are asleep. They are dangerous near the family house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Hence, both the horse and the nigger must be broken. This is breaking them from one form of mental life to another. Keep the body, take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. Now the breaking process is the same for both the horse and the nigger, only slightly varying in degrees. But as we said before, there is an art in long-range economic planning. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the nigger. Why do you think they separated the man out the household? Why do you think they separated the man out the household? They'd offer them food, wick, child support, and you know what I'm saying, they pushed all that in order to isolate the female and the offspring, because they know once they condition the mind, and this is not even the worst of this letter. So let's keep going. It says a brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generations of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you. For her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. Her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. This is what we're dealing with. This is why the mothers, single mothers, by statistics, single mothers pose detriment to a child. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to a two-parent household or being raised solely by the father. Because this process here is what they implemented in order to break the female. And this is, you got to think that a lot of times when you're going through mental trauma, and say that you're going through the trauma of them breaking you, the little difference is, and we haven't even got into the physical portion that brought the chemical, but the chemical process is what your goes to your DNA, and you preposition your DNA from your mind state. So all the dread, the fear, the cortisol, all the negative chemicals in the body that comes out in the child, because that's the state from which that child is being created. So then you have it as plain as day before your face. Let me see where I was at. Okay, therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in its early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you. For her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. For example, take the case of the wild stud horse, a female horse, and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with two captured nigger males in their natural state. A pregnant nigger woman with her infant offspring take the stud horse, break him for limited containment, completely break the horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you or anybody can ride her in her comfort. That's crazy. Think about how she goes to work. She obeys the boss. She obeys any European male with authority, but when it comes down to her own male, she doesn't take heed. And this is where it comes from. Breed the mare and the stud until you have the desired offspring. Then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again. Train the female horse whereby she will eat out of your hand. Snap, WIC, child support.
Housing
and she
assistance.
will turn. Exactly. Say that again.
Housing assistance.
No, say that again. Yeah. And she will in turn train the infant horse to eat out of your hand also. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized nigger, use the same process, but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of the mind. Take the meanest and most restless, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggers, the female and the nigger infant, tar and feather him. Tie each leg to a different horse faced in opposite directions. Set him afire and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining niggers. The next step is to bullwhip and beat the remaining nigger males to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Don't kill him, but put the fear in him, for he can be useful for the future breeding. And he even gives a psychology. This right here illustrates the psychology, the breaking process of the African woman. So us not taking heed to this letter, well, we know the Levi pants had the logo of them pulling us apart. The Levi pants.
Yeah.
If you look at the it had them pulling us apart. Right on the back of it. So we can't say that it didn't happen. We can't say that it's a theory. We can't say that these things in here are just what do you want to say? It's just a fable. It's just a farce. This actually happened. And so instead of doing this physically, now they do it with the court system. Now they do it with the police officers, where the police officers can just take somebody out of a car for a traffic stop, and they have the ability to judge whether you live or die in a traffic stop, even though the judgment is supposed to be up to the judge or a body of peers. But he can kill you at a stop. That's too much. Too much power in the police hands.
A few technical glitches here with the internet is going slow.
Now, let's get into the psychology.
Can you hear it all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's get into the psychology of this. This it says take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way because she is the most important factor for good economics. Does this not ring true today? This is why you don't believe when you see Europeans. I see Europeans saying that it's a farce, and I see unconscious Moors saying that this is a farce. This is just a theory. It says if she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract the last bit of, and it said bitch, out of her. So her in a natural state, wanting to defend her children and her family, they calling her a bitch for. Because you traumatized her when you tarred and feathered the male and you pulled apart a human being in front of them, and then you whipped the other ones until near death. And that woman seeing that they can't even protect themselves, the male can't even protect themselves. It's not that they can't protect themselves. It's that look at what they're going up against. Savagery at its greatest heights. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to the labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into the area of the subjected matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking process of the female nigger. We have reversed the relationship in her natural, uncivilized state. She would have, let's look at this portion right here. Is she uncivilized if she's holding the family together? Is she being a wife? If her husband's there, is she uncivilized? No, she understands the hierarchy of civilization, that it is structured inside the family. So how could she be uncivilized in her natural state? That's what they're trying to push. That's the propaganda they're trying to push at this point in time, that she's uncivilized. No, what one's had their own language. You are pushing somebody to understand yours, and then you claim that they can't read. No, they could read fine. They just didn't understand yours, your language. You see, but they're uncivilized because they don't understand yours. No, you uncivilized because of this, because of the process that and now you're trying to project as opposed to reflect. You know what I'm saying? So it says she would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male, and she would have a limited protective tendency towards her independent male offspring, and would raise male offspring to be dependent like her. Wow. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reversed nature by burning up and pulling a civilized nigger apart. Pulling a civilized nigger apart. And this is the Levi. This is the logo. And this is what they did. They tied the feet here, they tied the hands here, and they pulled one of us apart. After they tarred
That's
and
the
feathered.
original logo. Indeed.
Crazy. Pulled a civilized nigga apart. And this is what kills me. Pulling a civilized. They call her in her natural state uncivilized up here, but then they refer to pulling a civilized. That's crazy. Nigga apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death. All presence. By her being left alone unprotected with the male image destroyed. The ordeal caused her to move from her psychologically dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reverse roles for fear of the young male's life. She will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong, because she has become psychologically independent. She will train her female offspring to be psychologically independent. What have you got? You've got the nigger woman out front and the nigger man behind and scared. That's crazy. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economics. Before the breaking process, we had to be alertly on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly. For out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. He is a good tool, now ready to be tied to a horse at a tender age. By the time a nigger boy reaches an age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a unit of good labor force. Continually through the breaking of uncivilized savage niggers, by throwing the nigger female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the nigger male slaves, we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves. We show what we mean by example. Take the case of the two economic slaves units and examine them close. Man. And I recommend, I'm not going to go into the rest of this, but I recommend that everybody take some time and weigh this for yourself. Here, and let me point this out. Just to show you that we weren't uncivilized, because he even admitted we were civilized in our natural state. Since crossbreeding complete for future, and this is under controlled language, since crossbreeding complete for future severance from their original being, we must completely annihilate the mother tongue. Completely annihilate the mother tongue. Being a fool is one of the basic ingredients of any incident to the maintenance of slavery system, of the slavery system. And you're telling me that our situation was something that we created, we conjured up? Would we think this for ourselves? How do we become slaves today? Oh, let's do this and this, and we become slaves. That's not, no. We got to realize that there's true savages in the world. This is what they call deplorable. This is sadistic. But we're the ones that you got people that I've been talking, going back and forth with online, because women want to get on there and say that or we're the number one and we're the number one community with STDs and all this other stuff and all this other,
Right.
and I'm sitting over here like, do you, this show? I know when somebody don't know the gravity of, saying pale skin supremacy. I know when somebody don't, because you can't, if you see this and you put it side by side with us as a people, you could not separate the language in this piece from the culture that we see with us. You couldn't. It's not
Yeah.
logically possible.
But there were so many ways that they, through their divide and conquer science, get people to actually participate in these oppressive behaviors. And it's a programming as well for the ones that consider themselves to be white, these Europeans in America that consider themselves to be white, and simply by following the narrative and not uh, even attempt it, because they got a stake in it. And if you know that you uh, can identify with being white as opposed to being the lowest scum of the earth or the totem pole in a society like black people, you're going to continue to say that you're white and follow the narrative of those that are above the lowest form of people in society. So they are contributing just as well by not having a full understanding, and then by resisting the truth when it's presented to them.
Exactly. And I think
And
that,
they, like you said, project and try to turn it on you and say you're doing something wrong, or you're the one that's racist. In the example, for example, you can't say anything about a Jewish person in society, because then you'll get
man,
blackballed and ostracized. You can't say anything about, the truth about the government. And it goes on and on and on. And all of these things are actual and factual, where you can find the evidence that there is no dispute about these things being fact and true, but yet people will still persist and cling to the lie and point their finger at you and say, you are wrong for telling me the truth. So I understand what
and
you're
this
dealing
is
with.
where, if we're honest and we're sincere, and Europeans are what they say, they're trying to hijack a terminology called black fatigue. If you're truly tired of what's going on in our community, and our people say that we're truly tired of what's going on in our community, then we need to start here, because we need to know exactly we need to know exactly where it came from, why it is, and how it got started. We can be pulling the leaves off the limb all we want to, but if we want to fix the problem, we got to hack at the root, and this is the root. It's not. Stop. We got to stop thinking it's us. You can't. I can't think my way out of somebody else's problem. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that because the European feels inferior, and they are, for some reason, they want the war. They want the, I ain't gonna say want war, but war hungry, um, ready to rob, steal, kill for resources, and you don't feel like there's enough to go around. That's something that you personally got to deal with. That's not something that anybody else got to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Because if the roles were reversed, how would you feel?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
You know, and
Well,
this is
they
this is
have a lot of people that make claims that, every race has been in slavery and we had it just as bad as you did. Not at all. You can't even say that because it's still going on. And
yeah.
you are a victim of this modern day slavery yourself, because you've been conditioned to be a mental zombie.
And not willing
And
to.
then you're going to point your finger at the people calling them black. and you being manipulated against your own interests to go against humanity and call yourself Christians and all of these other things, and then try to tell us, I mean, I had a woman on social media. They come at me all the time. Just recently, do you accept Jesus Christ? And when you speak to them and say, well, do you even know where Christianity came from? And you coming to me asking me about Jesus, and I'm telling you that this belongs to you. It's for your earthly salvation, and they're not even aware of that. So you're gonna tell me to accept what your belief system is, and when I tell you that it don't belong to me, you don't even understand where it came from and how you got
it. And then on top of that, you want to do this critical race thing. You want to block critical race theory because that says that you want to perpetuate the situation and you don't really want to fix the situation. You guys been ducking and dodging the rehabilitation in fear, not that we're gonna do anything to you, but that we're gonna leave you behind. And it's been proven by all the economic powerhouses that we had post slavery, that you burned down, that you
it.
bulldozed
Exactly.
over.
That's what segregation. That's how segregation began. We had an economy that was surpassing yours, and you couldn't allow that in America. You like, nah, we're not gonna have that, so we're gonna rob and steal and take what you have, in this capitalist system, and then we're gonna suppress you as time goes on. We want what you have, and we came out of slavery with all of the skills in order to be able to build in a capitalist society, and you were left behind because you were lazy and dictative in mind's frame, so you wouldn't even do the work. So now we're coming out of slavery, who had the skills to be able to build the nation, and who built it, and who profits from it? And people will get, just like I said, with the you can't say nothing bad against or true about a Jew. They're not Jews. They're not even Jewish. But if you say something like that is anti-Semitic, you get canceled. And the same thing with capitalism. Oh, you're a Marxist, you're a communist. And they basically live off of social uh, income, and breed their wealth off of the government. The general labor and power and wealth of the people is how they get their money today in this society. Government contracts.
And let me say this: this is not hate speech, because a lot of people
Yep.
will try to role reverse this and saying that it's hate speech. This is not hate speech. This is me as a man, him as a man. We are problem solvers. And we understand that a lot of times people place fluff on problems. And so when you got fluff on problems, and then you got the person that's able to clear the area and see what the problem is, then let's address it from that standpoint. But because it makes you feel uncomfortable at the treachery of your ancestors, and still visibly inherent in you, you will say that this is hate. This is not hate. I want to fix the problem.
Exactly.
Though I know that we're crime wise, you guys are beating us out in every dynamic of crime. Every dynamic of crime, you are the leaderboard. You got it on the leaderboard. It's not
And I
us.
just wanted to speak to that as well, because this is just speaking truth to power, and it is definitely um, speaking about more than the problem and transitioning over to solutions that will actually bring about change and restore the balance and the harmony to the world that you do not wish to see occur. And it's not, like he said, it's not a hate speech. It's just truth. And those that, hate truth, you know, are going to look at it like it's hate. Because truth is hate to those that hate hearing anybody tell the truth. When you hear the truth, the first thing comes to you is your natural instinct to hate it because you don't want it to be told. You can't bury it. I mean, you can bury it. You can't get rid of it. It's always going to resurface. That's the only thing you can do is bury it and try to hide it and misconstrue it. But it's always there, especially if you're seeking it. And not one of you are out here seeking it. You're accepting the things that make you feel better about your life. And when somebody tells you, the first thing you said, like I told in the video, don't bring me down. I don't care if I got to live the life from here to the end of eternity. Don't bring me down with the truth.
That's a whole
different level of addiction.
That's a whole different level of addiction.
Indeed it is.
You know, and again, I hope that people, when this airs or when we put it out there, I hope that you guys are, well, I'm going to say it like this. I'm not going to hope nothing. I'm going to be able to tell by how well this is received if you are part of the problem or you're part of the solution. Because I went into in depth, or we went in, I'm not going to say we went in depth on this situation. Where it started, how it started, why it is the way it is. We want to fix the issue. You know what I'm saying? You want to stop crime in our neighborhood, because let's put it on. Then you got to bring in then you got to bring in that aspect with Dr. Frances Cresswell saying her book, The ISIS Papers. You know what I'm saying? That's another book to look at. Another book to look at is Stolen Legacy. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at it as a holistic. See, and what I noticed that Pale City Supremacy likes to do is fragment things to make it appear smaller than what it really is, and it's part of a whole mind frame. I can say that it's black on black crime, but where did this black on black crime from? Well, it came from the Willie Lynch letter. It came from somebody wanting to dominate somebody else, pitting the young against the old, the light against the dark, the little differences. That's where it came from. So to look at it in a fragmented situation, we can only focus on and think about the psychology of that. You fragment it and just say black on black crime. And this is why people come back and say, why don't they say white on white crime or Mexican on Mexican crime or, native on native crime? They don't say that. They only use that for us to, because if you fragment it, it appears like these people are the problem. It shifts the focus. There's transferred intent. Like if you guys got rid of us, all crime would stop. No, the crime would still be there. And the biggest, perpetuators of crime is the European race on every solitude of ground. You can say Ashkenazi Jews. You can say it all. But on the biggest span of ground, even the Ashkenazi Jews have a plan that said they're going to put the Europeans against the blacks, start a race war to kill off both so that they can get the ground. Like I don't think that people fully take in consideration the whole play. And if you don't see the whole play and you're trying to fragment and isolate and say this, and this is why, it's kind of off subject, but it's not. This is why the healthcare system doesn't work, because you guys are trying to fragment and saying that, oh, well, you got a bad liver. Well, why do you got a bad liver? Well, then you got to go to the stomach, you got to go to the livers, you got to go to the diet. You got to go to the environment where this person lives. You can't just focus on the liver. You got to focus on the holistic. Life is a holistic design. Everything is interdependent. So when you fragment something, then you break the ability to heal. And if you break the ability to heal, then can't nothing. You're going to have a dilapidated society, a dilapidated body. You know what I'm saying? A diseased body, a diseased culture, a diseased nation. This is where this is rampant in the West. You know what I'm saying? And it goes. We got to come out of it. You know what I'm saying? When it says "come out of her," that's what it's talking about. Because if we don't think from a holistic design, you're not going to be. I'm gonna tell you something like this for all the people, all these racist and undercover racist people. If you guys if there was some way that we get exterminated, there would be nobody on earth that is able to survive. Because we are the original construct of what man is genetically. And if the original's gone, the lookalikes don't survive. So what would be the purpose in you trying to exterminate us? Why would what is the hunger in that? Because it's sheer ignorance, stupidity. Because you have no true knowledge. You think knowledge is material off of a failing system. And the true economy of any nation is its people. You know, and I think that, keep it real, we need prison politics out in the street. Prison politics operates better. And when I'm saying prison politics, for those that don't know what that is, they have one from every group that's a leader. One from every nationality that is going to lead that people. One from every thought process that is going to lead that, aid and assist and lead that people. Because to have one person leading, other people are going to suffer. Doesn't matter who you put into place. But if it's a conglomerate of people leading in America, then you have an even field. You have an even playing field where everybody can get what they need. Nobody suffers.
One is represented. Everyone is represented. Every group, every portion of society, every view is represented.
And the only enemies are the things that would destroy our structure, our infrastructure, i.e., political science, psychology, and those things. That would destroy that. There is no reason why.
It is only the program that don't know these things. And this is the reason why we do the Ego Check podcast, because it's the ones that are programmed, that are so deeply into their programming that they don't want to wake up and face reality or the truth about anything in the world. They don't know their place in the world, and they don't know what the world is really about. So anytime someone puts together these two words, conspiracy or theory, then you should know that they created and manufactured these two words together, which is oxymoron, to basically confuse you and to keep that programming going. Because if you think about it, a conspiracy is something that actually happens when two or more people are sorting against you. A theory is some thought of a process that could possibly be. So how the heck are you going to put the two together and then claim somebody is talking about something that's really valid? It's not critical. It's not, you're not thinking critically. So I wanted to also add as well, when we speak of these things, you have to keep in mind a true Moor's value. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, bringing harmony to the planet, doing no harm, and strictly adhering to our values and our principles. So therefore, we are for peace and not destruction. Therefore, if you have anything to say about somebody that's bringing you this type of information in a negative manner, and you are not willing to dialogue with them without the arguing and the fussing and the misinformation, then you really aren't coming to the table honorably to complete any thing that has to do with solutions, and you really just perpetuating the problem. Continue on, brother. I just wanted to say that, and I wanted to add this to the screen too, so we can speak about it as well.
Okay, I like this. I like this because when we're looking at these 12 crown jewels, these 12 crown jewels are the structures of civilization. This is what makes you civilized. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding, love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, equality, food, clothing, and shelter. Those are what creates society. And a lot of these things, they have to be personally possessed, meaning that you have to have this in you. It can't be something that you visit. It got to be a part of your character, your everyday character. Knowledge has got to be something that you are always doing or always aware of. Wisdom is something, is the act of applying the knowledge. Understanding is a way to improve upon the knowledge. Love, you have to have, everybody is out there looking for love, but you're looking for love outside yourself. You can't give somebody love if you don't have it for yourself. Same thing with truth. A lot of people will lie to themselves. So of course they think everybody else is lying. Of course they think everybody else is speaking falsehood because they're willing to lie to themselves. And they're willing to accept lies. And they don't care. They're a bunch of gossip girls. They're willing to accept what they hear as opposed to doing the research to figure out if it's true. Peace. Once you receive your level of peace, you do not care to be around people that are unpeaceful. Peace is a personal thing that you radiate out. All these are keep it real. All these have a megahertz that they vibrate at. All these have a megahertz that they vibrate at. You know what I'm saying? And I'll leave that on you to look it up. Then you got freedom. This is a vibration. To be peaceful is to be free. Because this creates a level of synergy right here. You are plugging into now the universe. And therefore you are bringing about justice because you do not want, you want for your brother what you want for yourself. Meaning that if I see one hurting, I'm going to aid and assist. If I see one being hurt or killed, it could be me. So let me help defend. Which also brings about this equality. We need equality, and that's equality can't happen when there's one ruler. Even if you read in the Bible, in the beginning, when it's talk about the gods, he said, let us meaning a group of people, a group of beings, make man in our image and after our likeness. So there was more than one person ruling. He said, let us make man. So let's sit around and think of how we're going to make this man. What this man going to look like? What is this man going to do? Hey, you take this portion of the man, and you take that portion of the man, you take this portion, and then we'll bring them all together and see how this man looks once we come up and finalize our separate portions of man. You can't, one person can't represent 8 billion, how many people are in the United States? 385 million people. One person can't represent everybody. You know what I'm saying? Then you got food, clothing, and shelter. But let me say it like this. Without these here, without these last three, all these suffer. That's why they're all on the same list and they're all inherent. There is a divine connection between each and every one of these. But if you are worried about your food, your next meal, or having clothes on your back or a roof over your head, then you ain't caring about none of this above this. You're not, you're worried about this, especially in the society
That's
and
right.
aspect that we live in today.
It's all the programming. And this is debunking and breaking the programming. That's what this podcast and this YouTube channel is all about. This is what we bring, the Moors. And if they're not bringing it and they don't tell you about your prophet Noble Drew Ali, then what kind of Moor is he? If he don't tell you you got a prophet, what is he about? So you got a lot of people out here, and I'm not trying to throw no stones at anybody, but they're not giving you this. They telling you, about the finance, and that's the first thing they want to talk about.
You know, that's one thing that got me turned off from the church is that they're more concerned with finances. And we know that anything when it comes down to being a leader, if you lead a body of people, shouldn't none of your people suffer if you're asking your people for money?
Indeed. Indeed.
There's no reason why there's no reason why a pastor should have a jet airplane and your congregation is suffering to pay their own bills. There's no reason why anybody in your church shouldn't have health care. Church should be able to provide that for them. You know what I'm saying? But again, once you break things into pieces, the problem is everybody like to leave it in pieces. And Humpty Dumpty was a fragmentation of a societal structure of what true civilization looked like. Because if you break it into pieces and everybody picks up a piece and everybody runs to their own personal corner with this one piece, they think they got a jewel. And not knowing that you have to bring it back to whole together and repair it in order for it to be a jewel. So true civilization, or what you think civilization is in the West, it's not civilization. It's the lowest form of this is it's the lowest form. Just point blank. You know, and that's why it's on us to reinvent this wheel or put back together the wheels of civilization. Islam. And there it is, the Holy Grail, you know, which is the Exhument of a Nation, written by Dr. Akhenaten Tutankhamun Bey, aka Elihu
What do we
Pleasant
call
Bey,
it?
the chairman.
What do we call it? What do we call his book?
Oh, the Book of Fire.
Indeed, indeed. Because it'll set your soul afire with holy zeal, love and zeal. It will do something for you if you're ready for it. If you're not ready for it, you're gonna be like, "Oh, it's a book. I read it." You wasn't ready. You wasn't ready. If you think this is just a book you read, you ain't ready.
You couldn't be ready because there's too much information for one person to go through that in a lifetime. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed. Indeed. But the chairman definitely put it together. I mean, and you know he had some divine instructions in order to make that happen, because the prophet is all over in it. And that's what I like to say though as well, because we glorify all of these NBCs, and I'm not trying to say they didn't do their job at the time that they were here to do it, from Malcolm X to Martin Luther King to Thurgood Marshall and any of the other ones. But which one of them brought you your nationality, divine creed? Which one gave you a divine constitution and bylaws so that you can exercise self-determination and free yourself and do the same things that these Europeans did on your land by forming your nation and your government to free yourself? Who did that? But yet the one that did that, nobody wants to talk about in society. And then when we bring them up, you talking about who? You don't want to hear about it. And I'm talking about you NBCs. You can understand why the European man and their practices and their so-called named white people don't want to hear about it. You understand that's self-explanatory. But when you see something that looks strange and weird to you, the reason why it looks strange and weird to you and foreign to you, because it belonged to you. It belonged to you. The only one that brought you nationality, the only one that took it to the global and world stage and said that you were Moorish Americans, not Negro, black, and colors, black Ethiopians, and all of these things that delude to slavery. And in America, it Mount Civilita Mortus, look it up. Under the law, you weren't meant to be no citizen, and especially not of a corporation. How can a living man be a citizen of a corporation?
Oh, speaking of that part, man, I gotta show that because everybody think the 14th Amendment is something. Everybody think the 14th Amendment.
Yeah. Definitely we've been programmed to be a certain way.
And I want to show you guys that, like the chairman said, if the 13th Amendment was true on its face, then there would be no need for the 14th and 15th Amendment. If the 13th Amendment actually treated the slaves, there would be no need for the 13th or 14th Amendment. So
14th and 15th. How could they even be valid? And valid, let alone have any authority over you, pertain to you, if not just to reinstate slavery.
Exactly. And this is what a lot of people don't, they have no understanding of. That's it. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so I'm gonna have to blow this up. Oh, I'm gonna share this real quick.
All right. And you know what, man? While we got this little downtime, I would always tell my peoples that were, Bible thumpers and get on their Easter suits and go out and start talking about he was risen and, glorifying the man on the stick. I would tell them, have you ever read chapter 1 of the Moorish Holy Quran? I mean, and I was a Baptist preacher, if you didn't know this. When I was 28 years old, yeah, I was ordained in the Christian faith to be a Baptist preacher, bro. I mean, I thought I knew what I knew. So, when I read chapter 1 for the first time, it was like, wait a minute. Everything that I thought and knew in the Bible, it was like parables just hit me upside the head, and the prophet started shaking my head like, wait a minute. Everything in that Bible that I was preaching and talking about and didn't clearly understand started to come to light and be clarified by chapter 1 of the Moorish Holy Quran. You believe that? Can you see the correspondence between how a person indoctrinated into someone else's religion and faith can look at that and have a revelation of, my goodness, what in the world was done to me? Because that's what my experience was. So I would encourage everybody to get that and not only read it, but study it. Know what that first chapter is. We're going to cover that in a later show, perhaps to get you to understand what it is. But we always bring these books forward so you can get them for yourself. And this is another one I like to show to you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Book of Ali.
Oh, we could bring it up
That's
on
gonna give you some real.
the website too. We can share the screen and put it on
Yeah, that's
put
gonna
the
give you some
website up on
real
the
historical knowledge about who you are in America.
Yeah, you share screen?
Sure do. Is this the one?
Yeah. Now, this is the United States of America Congressional Record, Volume 113, Part 12, June 12th, 1967 to June 20th, 1967. Pages 15309 to 16558. This is speaking about the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, equal protection law or tool of usurpation. Of you, what did I say? Of usurpation. That's illegal. Usurpation is illegal.
Wow. Mr. Pryor, Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. What is that, Rarick?
Yeah, Rarick.
Rarick.
Yep.
Yeah. He may extend his remarks at this point in the record and include intraneous matters and speak pro torre is the object of the request of the gentleman from Arkansas. There was no objections. Mr. Rarick, Mr. Speaker, arrogantly ignoring clear out expression in the Constitution of the United States, the declared intent of its drafters, notwithstanding our unelected federal judges read out prohibitors of the Constitution of the United States by adopting the fuzzy haze of the 14th Amendment to legislate their personal ideals, prejudice, theories, guilt complexes, aims, and whims through the cooperation and intelligence of intellectual educators. We have subject ourselves to accept destructive use and means of words and phrases. We blindly accept new meanings and change values to alter our traditional thoughts. We have tolerantly permitted the habitual misuse of words to serve as a vehicle to abandon our foundation and goals. Thus, the present use of explanations of the 14th Amendment is a sham serving as a crutch and hoodwink to participate in a quasi-legal approach for overthrow of the tender balance of the what? It's moving around. Tender balance of the what?
To
I
the
missed my
balance
spot.
and protections of limitations. Protections
Protections and
right here.
limitations
And protections
found in the
of
Constitution.
limitations.
Okay. Yeah, that should sum it up right there. I mean, do you realize what that says?
But
I
that's
mean,
not,
I'm trying to read the small print just as you see it, but unfortunately, that's not a good
I can,
scenario in which, I mean, in this is proof. You're right. That's the proof.
but let's go into the I'll read this part of this right here. It says the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional, right? It says the purported 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution is and should be held to be ineffective, invalid, null and void, and unconstitutional for the following reasons. The joint resolution proposing state amendment was not submitted to or adopted by a constitutional Congress. Article, I'm gonna highlight it too. The joint resolution proposing said amendment was not submitted to or adopted by a constitutional Congress. Article 1, Section 3, and Article 5 of the United States Constitution. The joint resolution was not submitted to the President for his approval. Article 1, Section 7. This proposed 14th Amendment was rejected by more than 1/4 of all the states then in the Union, and it was never ratified by 3/4 of all the states in the Union. Article 5. So then let's go down here. This is all, and I'm going to read this portion. I'm going to read this first. It says 11 of the southern states, including South Carolina, are deprived of their representation in Congress, although their senators and representatives have been duly elected and have presented themselves for the purpose of taking their seats. Their credentials have in most instances been laid upon the table without being read, or have been referred to a committee who have failed to make any report on the subject. In short, Congress has refused to exercise its constitutional function and decide either upon the election, the return, or the qualification of the selected by the state and people to represent us. Some of the senators and representatives from the southern states were prepared to take the test oath, but even these have been persistently ignored and kept out of the seats to which they were entitled under the Constitution of laws. Now, going over here, it says Article 1, Section 7 provides that not only every bill which shall have been passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate of the United States Congress, but that every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and the House of Representatives may be necessarily exerted. Let's blow it a little bit. Except on the question of adornment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate of the House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in this case of a bill. The joint resolution proposing the 14th Amendment was never presented to the President of the United States for his approval, as President Andrew Johnson stated in his message on June 22nd, 1866. Therefore, the joint resolution did not take effect. Proposed amendment never ratified by 3/4 of the states. Permitted the ineffectiveness of said resolution as above. 15 states out of the 37 states of the Union rejected the proposed 14th Amendment between the dates of its submission to the states by the Secretary of State on June 16, 1866 and March 24, 1868, thereby further nullifying said resolution by marking it impossible for its ratification by the constitutionally required 3/4 of such states, as shown by the rejections thereof by the legislature of the following states. Texas rejected the 14th Amendment on October 27th. Georgia rejected the 14th Amendment on November 9th. Florida rejected the 14th Amendment on December 6, 1866. Alabama rejected the 14th Amendment on December 7, 1866. North Carolina, December 14th, 1866. Arkansas rejected it, the 14th Amendment on December 17, 1866. South Carolina rejected the 14th Amendment on December 20th, 1866. Kentucky rejected the 14th Amendment on January 8th, 1866. North Carolina's Senate Journal, and it just goes to the Senate Journal. Here's the other ones. Virginia rejected it on the 14th on 9, 1867. Louisiana rejected it on February 6, 1867. Delaware, February 7, 1867. Mississippi, January 31st, 1867. And just to give you some information on Mississippi. Mississippi just banned slavery in 2013.
Right, yeah.
So that should tell you something. Ohio rejected the 14th Amendment on January 15, 1866. New Jersey rejected the 14th Amendment on March 24, 1866. There was no question that all of the southern states which rejected the 14th Amendment had legally constituted governments, were fully recognized by the federal government, and were functioning as member states of the Union at the time of their rejection. President Andrew Johnson, in his veto message of March 22nd, 1867, pointed out it is not denied that the states in question have each of them an actual government with all the powers, executive, judicial, and legislative, which properly belonging to a free state. They are organized like the other states of the Union, and like them, they make, administers, and execute the laws which concern their domestic affairs. If further proof were needed that these states were operating under legally constituted governments as member states in the Union, the ratification of the 18th Amendment by December 8, 1866 undoubtedly supplies this official proof. If the southern states were not member states of the Union, the 13th Amendment would not have been submitted to the legislature for ratification. So there it says it simply in its own language that the 14th Amendment is not a part of the Constitution.
So if the 14th Amendment is not, then nothing out there it is either.
Nope. Well, you said what?
I said, so if the 14th Amendment isn't, then nothing else after that can be either. The 15th, 16th, on down the line.
No, that was just for the 14th. That was just
okay.
But he was saying that if he was saying in here that if none of those states, if those states didn't have the power to deny the 14th Amendment, that means that the 13th couldn't have been ratified from the original 20 sections. You remember, and that any of the ones, like you said, preceding that wouldn't be rectified. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Not that they weren't all true, but saying they couldn't have been ratified at that point in time. So, but this is saying that those 15 or 17 states that decided against the 14th Amendment, they there is no 14th Amendment on record legally. Legally, there's no 14th Amendment.
Right. So if the Constitution is the divine law of the land, the 14th Amendment isn't part of it.
It's not. Which means that when it says that we can never be citizens of the United States, we're still not citizens of the United States. Could never be citizens of the United States because the 14th Amendment doesn't exist. Right in front of your face. It's not my words. I didn't write this. I ain't typed this up. I ain't got no time traveling machine that took me back to 1868. I wouldn't have been approved of going in there anyway. So it's not like I wrote this. You know what I'm saying? I didn't create this. This document is on record. Yeah.
This is the type of folly that you can't do nothing but laugh at. You know what I'm saying?
And this is why
man. I'll talk about, but this is, brother, I love the way you bring it because, you try to tell your people and all they want to do is say, okay, well, Massa didn't say that, but Massa don't got to bring no receipts like this. And when we do, you still don't want to believe it.
Man, but this is why I enjoy law. I enjoy law, man, because it tells the truth. It tells the truth every time.
Indeed. And we give you honor for all the love and, research that you put into it and then bring forth to the people. You know what I mean? That's your job and you do it well.
Man, gratitude for that. Man, you as well.
All right, well, we want to give praise to the great God, Allah, honor to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. But we going in on the 90-minute mark, so
Yes,
you
sir.
got any closing remarks or anything else we want to cover? Let's get to it.
Just real brief. You know, the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nations. And I say we'll save that for the end, but do your research and stop believing what people tell you all the time, man. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, even in government, they don't know this. I had a lawyer try to tell me that the Dred Scott decision, where he said that black doesn't have any rights that a white has to respect.
Right.
And then I said that has never been changed. The lawyer came back and told me the 14th Amendment changed it. Well, the 14th Amendment just said it wasn't ratified, that it wasn't entered into the record. So therefore, how can it exist? It does not exist. You know what I'm saying? Just point blank, you know? And so with that, I'm gonna pause. I got a phone call real quick.
But we're gonna keep in mind that a lot of these things that occur are of design. There are no strange happenings. These things are not happening because we did something wrong, but to perpetuate a cycle of ignorance, hate, and lies when you are presented and confronted with the truth is just plain insanity. You doing the same things over and over and you expecting different results. You are glorifying in the black brand and acting as if it's not owned by another. You out here talking about we need black excellence and our education system that indoctrinated you and made you, of the program thinking that you are in is something that you consistently want to elevate. So it would indicate only to me that you don't want to build your own table and your own nation. You want what they got and be in control of what they are already utilizing to oppress the people. And that's not right. That's not what you should be seeking to do. Living in the slave titles and the brands and the names that delude to slavery and then saying, okay, we about to come up. I don't see it.
No, not at all. You know, and this is, like I said, we're not bringing this to inspire hate. We're bringing this so that we can, it's time for, our nation of people, which is the Moorish American nation, misnomer NBCs, to heal. It's time. You know what I'm saying? We need a complete divorce from American politics in order for us to heal. You know what I'm saying? And actually do the internal work that it takes. You know what I'm saying? And then we can come back and possibly support the rest of the world. But right now, we need a complete divorce from the supremacy here, if you want to call it that.
Indeed.
Oh yeah, and so we got about 2 minutes left. I'm gonna read the one thing I want everybody to get in head is that Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all, and your love to each other. Peace. And we do peace with one.
Peace to the gods. This is the district. See you next time. Islam.